Okay, as you can see, we've got the teardown, the initial teardown done. We didn't really want to bore you with that on camera because tearing down's the easy part. It took about 2-3 hours on a Friday afternoon. And we've got a couple more prep steps that we're going to take. I'm going to introduce you to those. Big T's going to do those, and then we'll come back with the camera and show you how those turned out. Just kind of want to go over the whys on that first. One thing we're going to do on the generic hardtails, we're going to take this tab off and using a flap wheel and an angle grinder, we're going to make that look like that was never there. The reason being is that that's where we're going to put our bitter end battery tray, and that bracket interferes with the placement of that. What that bracket is for is if you want to just relocate your stock battery tray bottom, there's 2 threaded holes here, and using these 2 threaded holes and this hole, you can just relocate your stock battery tray bottom right to that area if you want to do that. This customer ordered one of our battery trays that mounts differently and is a different size, so this bracket's got to go to get it out of the way. Another thing we're going to do is, this is your stock exhaust hanger. You'll see when you do your teardown that it's where this hangs to hold your front and rear exhaust, to give it a point and space to hang off of. Because this hardtail has a new exhaust hanger that's further out, which is necessary, it needs to be further out to clear the wider 200 tire that this hardtail accepts. We don't need that anymore because this will become a mount point for the exhaust if we choose to use it. So we're going to cut this off and remove the rest of the bracketing and the welds around that. A couple other things we did when we did the teardown, I suggest you may want to consider doing as well. Label the oil lines as you take them off. You can see we labeled this one. We determined this is the oil return, this is the vent line, and this is the main oil feed line over here. It's probably a little easier to figure out what those lines are and what they do while they're still hooked up to the oil tank, because you can just pull out your service manual, pull up in the page that has the oil line routing, compare that to how it's hooked up to the oil tank, and at this point it's really easy to tell what oil line goes where and label it. We got almost all the electrical system out of there. It was in this area, of course. We got almost the entire thing out of there without having to cut any wires, even disconnect very much, which is nice because that way we can still find our way back home when we go to put that back in this area once the hardtail's on. Like I said, when we come back. Okay, while we were off camera, my man Big T went ahead and took this bracket, this battery tray bracket off here. As you can tell, as he usually does, makes it look like it was never there. So that's gone. The old muffler hanger bracket is gone. We went ahead and just took a flap wheel and an angle grinder and smoothed it on the outside. On the inside, it's something that won't ever be seen, so we just kind of cut it close to the frame, ground it down. Next, we're going to make these cuts to remove the fender strut section. We had this little guide we just made it up out of scrap steel we had laying around. We've done so many of these that we pretty much know where to cut, so this will act as a blade guide for our saw. We're going to use this kind of portable hand band saw to do that work. This will act as a guide. I'll just run my blade right along there, and that'll get me started. Once this section's off, we'll put a tape measure up here for you so you can see roughly how far from this crotch to the end to cut. Although I strongly recommend that you cut long, much longer than you think you're ever going to need, and then just grind your way slowly back to where everything butts up perfectly. That's really the best, unless you have this kind of guide and the kind of experience to know exactly where to cut. I recommend you cut long and grind back. These cuts down here really aren't as critical where you put them, because all you're doing here is just freeing this piece to come off. I usually just cut these about as short as I can without weakening the place where the top of that lower rear motor plate gusset comes in. I don't like to get into that because that's critical for strength. So probably going to cut just right above there. The other thing we're going to go ahead and do right now is remove the drive sprocket. Use this handy locking tool available on the side as always, just to get a hold of that rascal, just to hold it in place. I use an impact wrench to get that off of there, but I like to have something just to hold onto the sprocket. And voila, there we go. Now we're ready to put the new 1-inch offset sprocket that came in the kit. Okay, while we were off camera, we did our 4 cuts here, 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 and here, and liberated this beautiful piece from the bike itself. We talked about the distance from that kind of, if you want to look at where this starts to angle outward. I'm going to hold the tape measure there. You're looking at around 4 inches. I think 4.5 is probably about where it's going to end up. If I was you at home, I'd probably cut it at 5 inches, and like I said, bolt the hardtail up in position and then grind it to where it butts up just about perfectly. We're not as concerned because we're going to use our bolt action slugs to go up in there to fill in any distance or what have you, so we're not quite as concerned. A couple more cuts we're going to make. Obviously this needs to come off. This is a relic that doesn't have any function anymore, as well as these tabs. We're going to remove these tabs to get them out of the way of where we're going to put our round barrel oil tank. We'll also clean this up and smooth this, make these even, so that we can weld on some butt weld end caps and close those up as well. Okay, while we were out off camera, we cleaned up this whole area. Those tabs that we talked about, we needed to be gone. Those are gone. We took all the paint off, ground those smooth with a flap wheel and an angle grinder. This is our favorite weapon around here. If you don't have flap wheels for your angle grinder, get them, because they're the best way to aggressively remove material while smoothing and sanding at the same time. Use the heck out of those around here. That big chunk is gone. We cut and smoothed that off. This is an old frame, so it was really easy to take the paint off. Must have been before the powder coat days. So that the paint came off with a power wire wheel. Just have a 4-inch wire wheel we put on our angle grinder, and that makes quick work of paint removal in this case. We stripped the paint off around here because we're going to take our 1.25-inch butt weld end caps that we sell, and those will go right there. We're going to tack those on, and once we do that, we'll be ready to loosen these 4 bolts and mock up the hardtail, which we'll do in the next frame. Okay, so we used the impact and pulled these 4 bolts, and then just it's pretty easy. We just zip these bolts out, put the hardtail up there, put the bolts back in. The top 2 have nuts, the bottom 2 just thread into the sunken nuts in the castings. That went on easy. We slid our bolt action slugs up into the frame. Really, in retrospect, I wish I'd have cut this about 1/2 inch longer. It's no big deal because we're just gonna we'll fill this entire area in with weld anyway, so it'll be solid underneath my ruler when we're done. But would have liked to have had a little bit more frame and a little less to fill there. It's just a time consumption thing. We probably even gusset in here a little bit when we go to final weld. And then we tacked on our butt weld end caps. As you can see, this has been kind of a fun day because we went from having a frame with the shock mounts on it to a frame basically with the hardtail, so you can see what the hardtail is going to look like on the bike. Stay tuned. Next video we're going to mock up the rear wheel and tire and the fender. So at that point, video 3, it'll start looking like a bike again. Stay tuned.